as an individual create original content, which is showcasing your knowledge of the sector, and it's helpful. So giving helpful tips is, I mean, I know we're seeing some recruiters doing this, this is what to do for a job interview. This is what to do here. But people love that content. So even if you feel like as a recruiter, all of your former peers and your current peers and everybody feel like, oh, everybody's doing it, what have I got to say? You still need to be helpful.
Welcome to the Tech Savvy Recruiter, the podcast for recruitment and staffing agency owners keen to explore the tech innovations reshaping our industry. I'm Andrew Roger from recMate.
And I'm Belinda from Recruitment Garage, and together we're your hosts, bringing you a stellar lineup of tech experts ready to help you understand and, more importantly, benefit from the increasing array of tech available to you today.
Well, hi, and welcome to another exciting edition of the Tech Savvy Recruiter. Today we have a very special VIP guest joining us. She is one of the best LinkedIn profile writers in the world, and she's a LinkedIn trainer as well. With over a decade, it might be close to 2 decades, I'm not telling tales out of school though, of experience in helping professionals and businesses thrive on LinkedIn, she's here to share her invaluable insights and tips. Please welcome Karen Tisdall, the driving force behind KarenTisdall.com. Whether you're a recruiter, a staffing business owner, or a marketing professional, Karen's expertise will provide you with actionable strategies to take your LinkedIn presence to the next level. Welcome, Karen. For those that don't know you, can you please give an overview of who you are and what it is that you do?
Thank you so much for having me. So I am a LinkedIn profile writer. But before being a LinkedIn profile writer, I was a recruiter for 14 and a half glorious years. I loved recruitment and started in the 1990s, early 1990s. You'd remember those times, wouldn't you, Belinda? So I'm probably...
Oh, no.
Anyway, all the folders of candidates. Oh my gosh, how the technology.
Oh my gosh.
Massive big rooms full of CVs, I remember.
Yes.
Compactuses, that's what they were.
Totally. You'd have some recruiters who'd read them under their desk, this is my candidate, and oh my gosh, how technology is
the top drawer special. Drawer special, right?
Totally. How technology has changed our lives. So I started using LinkedIn in 2005 when I was working at Chandler McLeod. We had an amazing CEO, Luke Henningsen, who did a lunch and learn and was talking about LinkedIn. And I just thought, oh, it's amazing. It's like an address book of everybody I've ever met or would want to meet. So I was on board straight away. And in 2009, while I was on maternity leave from recruitment, I started writing LinkedIn profiles and I didn't go back to recruitment. So I've been doing this for a while now and also do LinkedIn training, as you said.
Yeah, fantastic. It's been an amazing journey. And I know that I've used your services and that's dramatically helped my profile. So
ditto.
That's right. I was pretty sure that you had as well,
yeah.
BK too. Speaking of, you just mentioned networking and leveraging LinkedIn. How, from your perspective, can you see that professionals can effectively do that? That is, network on LinkedIn and build meaningful connections that can, definitely lead to marketing opportunities. Specifically, in your mind, are there really good approaches or etiquettes that they could follow to enable that?
A lot of recruiters are actually getting the initial approach right now. I don't think that was the case a couple of years ago. I think we were seeing a lot of people do quite spammy messages, but I think from what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, the approach is actually really quite good, whether you're using in-mails or whether you're using sort of sending invites to connect or however you're doing that. I think a lot of people are hitting the nail right. Where I think people are still struggling is in that follow-up. So once you've connected with somebody, if they're a candidate, that next follow-up's easy, and you don't want to constantly be keeping in contact with them unless you're sort of placing them in a role or something. But if they're a potential client that you've connected with on LinkedIn, I think a lot of people really struggle with, I've connected with a potential client and I know that they need my recruitment services. What do I do next? And I just think people really struggle with that. So
I see that a lot. I totally agree.
Yeah. So I can share some tips.
Do you think it's a bit of that? pick up the phone hesitation, but online? Do you think it's part of that?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think that's actually a really growing thing. I think people, just like people have become more and more nervous around picking up the phone and phoning people, I think people are more and more nervous around, I've connected, now what do I do?
Yeah, what I see is that it's like I've got this kind of social element. I've connected it, and it's hi, how you going? And it's nothing to do with recruitment, really. It's just, and then how do I then transition that to a business conversation around potentially wanting to, recruit for them? That's where I see the sticking point a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to fall into that sort of friend zone where you sort of chit chat back and forth and that kind of stuff. Whereas there's a fine balance there of just diving in and asking for the business and building that relationship. But I think,
and taking time too. It doesn't have to all happen in 24 hours. It can sometimes can take months, even years. Sometimes, hopefully not, but sometimes it can.
You do need to drip feed them. You do need to, if it is going to take ages, you do need to have that contact with people. And I think, as Andrew said, people can either be too friendly or they just don't say anything. So one of my favourite things to do is, once you've connected with somebody who can become a potential client of your recruitment agency, is just as you have a weekly habit, I'm assuming, of marketing, of going out there and contacting clients, just like you have that weekly marketing. I think everybody should, once a week, every week, set aside some time to look at who they've recently connected with on LinkedIn, which is not as easy as it used to be. If you're using LinkedIn Premium, Recruiter Lite, I don't know if that would make it easier. And certainly Sales Nav will make it a bit easier. But in terms of, just sort of clicking on my connections and then going across to my network and looking at who you've recently connected to, opening up their profile and leaving a voice note is really powerful. So a lot of people are not leaving voice notes. If they send a message once they've connected with somebody, it's either a hard sales pitch or, as you've said, it's too friendly. Hey, how are you doing? What project are you working on at the moment? Clients are like, really? I don't even know you. So I think instead we should be leaving people voice notes.
Tell me what you do. Yeah. It's like you're on LinkedIn. Look.
So I'm going to give an example for you, Andrew. So I open up your profile, Andrew Roger. I hope everybody's connected to you. And then I'm clicking bottom right-hand corner. I've got a little microphone button. I'm clicking on that. And then I've got a blue dot. And so I'm clicking on that blue dot and I'm leaving a voice message, taking a deep breath in and starting on the out breath when I'm speaking. And in case you're thinking, why is she giving me speaker tips? It's because you don't want your listener, the first thing they hear is for you to go, because that just sounds pretty weird, right? So no Darth Vader impressions here. So take a deep breath in, speak on the out breath. Hi, Andrew. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation to connect. Really appreciate it. Look, it's great to be connected to you. I can see you do a lot of stuff in the technology space, and you're doing some really good things. So well done, you. Look, I don't know if you had a chance to have a look at my profile. If you did, you might have noticed actually we recruit a lot of roles in and around your space. So if there's ever anything I can help you with, give me a shout and let me know. But really just wanted to reach out and say thanks so much for accepting my invite. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Yeah. And I think, Karen, it's important to note there that's just on the smartphone. You can't do that on your computer.
Can't do that on your computer. So only on your phone. Thank you for saying that. So when we look at different touch points, people have trust in the written word has been declining since the 1970s. And it's at pretty much an all-time low. Like, people just don't trust what they read anymore. And now we're not trusting what we see, which I just thought was weird until I was watching a documentary with my kids. And my youngest, we're looking at Niagara Falls on a documentary. And my youngest is going, what a great green screen. Like, they just don't trust anything they see anymore.
Yeah. Wow.
Trust voice, and trust in voice is increasing. Podcasts are so popular. You're on the best medium here. Like, we love listening. We love listening to our GPS. We love interacting with Google Assistant and Siri. We trust voice. So people should be using voices and then sort of setting a time and going, okay, what are the industry conferences that are coming up? And then sending a note maybe a month out from that conference. And this time not a verbal note, but you're writing a note and you're saying, you know, I noticed that the upcoming conference and such in your industry sector is on. It would be great to put a face to the name, ignoring the fact that you can already see their face on LinkedIn. So it'd be great to put a face to the name. You know, will you be attending? So just again, sort of trying to find reasons to reach out to people. You know, I found an article and I think this is interesting. Podcasts are fantastic to send in a direct message. You know, so, you know, I just happen to be listening to this podcast. It's around our industry. And I think you'd find it really interesting, particularly at 20 minutes in, where Belinda says blah, blah, blah. You know, so when you send something like that, it feels so personal. So I think people need to use the DM functions more.
Yeah, and I think this ties in really nicely too, Karen. I think the whole automation thing is on the way out. In fact, I had a message from somebody today said, oh, so glad that this is a personal message and not an automated thing trying to sell me something. Everybody's onto that now. So that's done. I think it's done its day. I know people still use it. I've never been a fan. The other thing I wanted to just chime in there, Karen, is so we talked about audio. What do you think about video messages compared to audio messages?
So I do like them, but I'm just very cognizant that if you're doing a video message, so they work really well in the US. So for your US listeners, they work really well. Here in Australia, where we're based, whenever I've done a survey in audiences and I'm speaking to, and what do you think of video messages? I get a lot of people, it feels a bit too much. It feels too in my face. It feels
interesting. Okay.
So I think it's actually contextual to different countries. UK, I've heard trainers in the UK who I'm connected to talk about how, again, video messages can be feel a bit too full on. I don't know about other countries. So I think it's very contextual. What do you reckon, Roger? You got your name for it.
Yeah, I think, listen, I'm with you on that. It might be a bit too forward, right? It might be, you know, asking for the deal before you've built the relationship. In some ways, it's a little bit maybe more intimate where you've got your face in their face.
I guess like anything too, you can test it, you know, do a split test and see what works.
If you're doing some outreach, do 5 videos and 5 voice and see what works.
So that ties really nicely into Karen, the content piece. So what are you finding, what sort of content is performing best on LinkedIn for marketing purposes right now? And, you know, you might like to share some tips there as well as how people can get more engagement with their target. And we sort of touched it a little bit, but I think it'd be good to go deeper into that.
I see a lot of recruiters still doing reposts. So where they're, I think because company pages have had increased functionality in recent years, you've got more and more people and more and more budget being put behind the LinkedIn company page. And so recruiters are simply resharing company page content, which is what the marketers or owners of the business are telling them to do. And please stop doing that. Instead, you know, I mean, I know it's hard to get company page posts to get traction, but if you can, as an individual, create original content, which is showcasing your knowledge of the sector and it's helpful. So giving helpful tips is, you know, I mean, I know we're seeing some recruiters doing this, you know, this is what to do for a job interview, this is what to do here, but people love that content. So even if you feel like as a recruiter, all of your former peers and your current peers and everybody, you feel like, oh, everybody's doing it, what have I got to say? You still need to be helpful. So please, no reposts of the company page, comment on the company page, or maybe some reposts of the company page. So maybe sort of like look at a 1 in 5. So for, you know, you really want a 1 in 5, 1 in 4 sort of thing. Could be a repost, but try and do original content that's helpful. We did speak when we started today. We spoke about, you know, the ubiquitous selfie. Selfies are still doing really well. People like pictures of people, so long as they're not too polished. So try and do helpful content, but also showcase who you are. Think about having a signature at the bottom of the post. So this is quite new. So by a signature, what I mean by that is at the end of your post, you tag your own name You might do sort of like little lines or something like that before you do this, or you could just launch straight into it at the very bottom of your post, regardless of what your post is about. You tag your own name and then you put a couple of short sentences. So Andrew Roger, looking after all of your recruitment technology, expert in Bullhorn and da-da-da.
Oh, I love that.
So something like that.
Great.
Just because attentions are so short, people are scrolling through the feed. They remember the tips that you've helped them with, but they don't always remember you. So you just want to use that science of primacy and recency, an L&D thing, just to top and tail your post. Like it already starts with you, but make sure it ends with you too.
Just on that too, Karen, I love that. And you were saying, people are thinking, interview tips, that's kind of done. But think about it. My view always is, think about it from your industry and go deep for your industry, because that showcases people what you actually do, what industry you're in, and it's giving much more relevant advice. I think and I'm always banging on about this with my guys. I think that, the deeper that you can go and the more relevant to your market, the better your content's going to land as well.
So true. I was speaking to one of my people that I'm writing a LinkedIn profile for at the moment, and he said to me only last night, I need to talk with people who are vendors, and I need to sort of start finding out and talk to recruiters, finding out, what's trending at the moment. Because I know last year it was cybersecurity. But in my space, as a chief information officer, chief technology officer, I need to know, what's the latest trend. So help people to know that. Be the most helpful person in the room.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
I was just going to say that I think timing is everything as well, because those interview tips may not be valuable for me today, but if I'm looking for a new job in 6 months' time, then even if I'm regurgitating something that I wrote 6 months ago with a different nuance to it, then it's going to be much more valuable for my audience that are looking at that time.
Yeah. I love that you've mentioned timing, because I think a lot of recruiters writing content can just feel time consuming. So I think it's really important to have a calendar on your wall. Go old school, have a calendar on your wall and just put in, okay, so what are the themes for this month? Okay, so this month is Are You OK Day? And here in Australia, that's important to us. If you're in a US market, sort of, okay, it's Thanksgiving. I'm not going to make and we're winding down. So maybe I'm not going to produce a lot of content then. And if I do, it might be of a more personal nature. When is the job market really booming? When are the industry conferences? So, okay, all right, don't need to worry about content, that month, because I've got an industry content. So I can take a couple of pictures and that's me done for a few posts. Aiming for at least one post a week and try and batch write that and just have a plan in front of you of what are the things that are happening that year. It'll make your life so much easier.
Karen, what about newsletters? Because I know they were sort of flavour of the month a little while ago. We still do them. I find them quite useful, and I think they're good because you get that opportunity to actually go deep into something. And it's from my side, it's usually quite specifically business related. But what's your take on how they're fitting into the picture these days?
I think that individual recruiters shouldn't be doing newsletters, but I think company pages should. Now, I'm not a big fan of company page content because I know it's like pushing water uphill, but company pages are just getting so much more functionality, and you can now have multiple newsletters on your company page. And recruitment agencies are not taking advantage of this. So I think recruitment agencies should have 2 newsletters as a minimum, 2 newsletters coming out from your company page. One of them could be around industry trends or a summary of, little things that are happening. And the individuals, your recruiters, can use some of that content to create little mini posts. And the other one should be a list of all of the jobs that you've got on. And that's why I'm saying 2 newsletters as a minimum, because if you've got a few different verticals that you cover in your recruitment agency, you want to have a newsletter for each. So with that greater function of company pages, I just think we need to see more newsletters and then getting everybody on board with inviting people to follow the company page. Just so that they can see those newsletters as well.
Do you think that LinkedIn Because in my experience, the personal news feed's always done so much better than the company page. So are you saying that LinkedIn are going to kind of nurture that more if they're adding this functionality? Are they going to give it more reach?
They can't. And they won't, because they want company pages to pay for advertising. So they're never going to boost company page posts too much, because otherwise you wouldn't pay for advertising. But if you have a company page newsletter, your individual recruiters can share that newsletter. And it's not going to look like a repost. It's going to look like an article that's come out from their agency. So
you wouldn't get the consultants to actually redo that on their page as a newsletter from them. You'd actually recommend resharing what's already on the company page. Okay, that's good advice.
Totally. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I just think that company page newsletters, in terms of listing all the job vacancies you've got on, to me, it's just such easy content, and I just don't see many people doing that. I don't know why.
Yeah, interesting. That's great.
Lost opportunity by the sounds of it, which is good. Pick up on that one. On a different, moving from company to personal. Now, this is a bit of a gift question for you. How important is personal branding, do you feel, on LinkedIn, and what steps can people take to make sure that authentic personal brand is shining through?
Thank you. Now, this is what I'm so passionate about, is, it is the, if a company page is the cart, the individuals are the horses. I don't know offending people with horses.
I wonder where you were going with that one. I'm like, okay.
It is the individuals. It's called social media for a reason. It is social. So we really do need to make sure that all of the individuals who work for your company, even if, I don't know if anybody has a front desk anymore. We used to have a front desk way back in the day. But, even the person who sits on your front desk, even the cleaner, get everybody connected to your company page, and make sure they've got a branded background banner. I think most companies are doing that now. But what I don't see is people giving their employees a couple of paragraphs that they could put in the experience section, or even just a paragraph that talks about what the business does, but not we do this and we do that, but instead something that meets your audience where they're at. So are you struggling to, find people in this space? Are you struggling to get a role in this space? We are this and we stand for that and we can help you. So something like that, not like we've been established for 15 years. And that's just not meeting your audience.
You've got a total of 64,000 hours of
Yeah.
To that. Because there's nothing, it's not helpful to your audience. So really talk with them in a conversational tone. Have a paragraph or two that has your contact details, that has a general number people can call, an email address, info at, just a general, and just copy and paste that, get everybody to upload it into their experience sections. And think too about the about sections. Your individuals own their LinkedIn profile, so they may want to do their own about section. But if you can just give them a paragraph and a bit of a format of something that they can have in their about section, you're going to make them look so much better. So if you just do the simple math, if your average recruitment consultant has only got 2,500 connections, and I think, there should be a lot of recruiters out there that probably got 10,000 plus. So if you've got 2,500 and you've got, say, 8 employees, that's 20,000 touch points.
Yeah, if you think about that in terms of a stadium and like in real people, that's a lot, isn't it? It's not just a number.
And I think they're conservative numbers, Karen, I think. So, at worst, you're looking at that for a relatively small staffing firm.
Totally. And if all of your people, if you've got a license on premium or something like that, when you look at the top card of LinkedIn, so the bit where you've got your name, you've got your headline, and that section, if you scroll to the very bottom there, you can also add a website link as well. And that's not being utilized at the moment. The featured section is not being utilized. Whenever I'm writing LinkedIn profiles for, all of a sales team in a company or whatever, I'm always making sure that I'm getting the website and putting it in the featured section. Always. and you can have 2 featured sections for every employee, where one is the homepage of the website and the other one might be driving people to maybe the newsletter, the company page newsletter. So you could have 3, and another one could be a list of jobs, our jobs page, so just something like that. So the featured is still not being utilized.
I've seen people pulling their, and I don't know how to do it, pulling their recommendations up into their features section. You seen that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's really easy to do as well. So, so the featured section, if people are looking at their phone, just going, "I've got no idea what she's talking about," so just add profiles.
Oh, you can only do it on your phone, can you?
No, phone or desktop. So, but it's add profile section, and it's under recommended featured, and then just go to the edit section or the plus button, and then you'll see a drop down and you can pull up other areas of your profile. Why you would want to highlight your experience section is beyond me, but you can put a recommendation up there. But really, wouldn't you want to drive people to your jobs board?
Yeah, but I guess I was just curious because I had seen people do it and I thought, it's good to know about. If you know about it, you can decide whether that's something that suits you or not. I mean, if you've got a really good recommendation from somebody who's a real thought leader in your space, then to me that would make sense. If it's just, Jan in admin that's like, maybe don't worry. I don't know.
I haven't filled with recommendations. I've seen a couple of recruiters who've had like 2 recommendations and then they pinned their own LinkedIn post. So LinkedIn will always push you to promote LinkedIn content so it can keep you in an echo chamber of staying on LinkedIn. But you do have the option of adding an external link. So, don't pin your posts. This is me in Sydney Harbour sipping champagne because we had a great sales year. And so I'm going to pin that post and then decided I'll put a recommendation where somebody's talking about how great I am. And then I'll upload another recommendation, and that's all people can see.
The question I always ask myself when I post anything is this giving value to my audience? Or not? Is it just me puffing myself up? And that helps me because sometimes I kind of go, no, don't post that. No one really cares about that, but they might care about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a fine balance, isn't it? Around you have to do a bit of puffing, and I think Australians are really bad at that generally. But at the same time, you've got to, think what is in it for them, that W2FM. What are they tuning in for? Why are they looking at my page? What can I give them that's going to add value to their day? And I was just thinking, Karen, around, we've talked a lot about, my corporate face. I'm a big believer that we buy from humans. So it's not business to business, it's really human to human. What do you see works really well from adding that personal touch? You talked about sipping champagne on the harbour. I don't know if that's too far, but are there things that you see work well putting in profiles about, about me stuff?
Totally, absolutely. So I think it's important in your in your headline section, at the end of your headline section, you can add in there a hobby or something personal about you, is really nice. And also in your about section. So don't lead with it. Don't start with it. You need to meet your clients and your audience where they're at, and then talk about why you do what you do. Like, why do you do recruitment? Why did you decide to set up a recruitment agency? Why this? So talk about that why, and then towards the end of that, just say, when I'm not at work, you'll find me bomb, 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 so people like to know who they are. I think, Andrew, correct me, you've got 3-4 children, is it not? How many children do you have?
Since our last conversation, there's another one, so it's 5. I'm stopping now, I promise.
5 children. So, that's fantastic. People love to hear that sort of stuff. They love to go, great. So share something about who you are. It's interesting. It humanizes you. As you say, we buy from humans, don't we? So, and it can be a great conversation starter. And on that, I think it's important, again, to, when you're creating content that adds value, that this is what you need to do in an interview, or this is what you need to do for this, or this is the latest trends. If you can weave in there a little story about something that you did, and particularly something that's a bit self-deprecating, self-deprecating, but also it's a balance between being self-deprecating and puffing yourself up, like you said, isn't it? But something that's sort of like, I remember there was this time when I won this award and I tripped over on the way to collect it or something, and my skirt flew over my head or something like that. Like something that just makes me go,
It happens to me often.
Like it happens to you all the time when you're wearing your high heels around the house with your 5 children. So, so just sort of try and be a bit human.
I just had a terrible image.
Some things you can't unsee now.
So I think sort of just, it makes us stickier. It makes us more memorable.
Yeah, because I think we can be too marketing gloss at times, can't we? And just having that little chink in your armor, that bit of vulnerability around who I am, what I'm struggling with, what I've overcome. And I love that storytelling piece. I'm very, very passionate around telling that story to get your message across, because people for centuries tell stories, and that's how you remember things.
Totally.
Yeah, we love stories.
We do,
don't we? We hang on it. And just a side note, guys, for the listeners on content, follow Karen, and you'll get an amazing lesson on how to write amazing content. Plus, you'll get lots of great LinkedIn advice too. But in terms of what sort of things to post and how to do it, Karen does it beautifully. Karen, I know we've kind of covered this a little bit, but I'd like to go a bit deeper if we can on the best practices for engaging with your LinkedIn network. How can regular interaction with connections really enhance marketing efforts and visibility?
Well, when you DM somebody and they respond, they're more likely to see your next piece of content. So that's a proven fact. But that said,
just your next piece or more from there as well?
No, they'll just see your next piece of content. So I don't know if it works for a couple of pieces of content. I don't think it would. I think if LinkedIn show you they'll show them your next piece of content, and then if they respond to that, then they'll see the piece after that. But if they just ignore it and scroll past, then they won't. So I think it's just really important just to find those industry events that you can mention, and just, I actually have a networking spreadsheet. So if anybody wants this, please just DM me on LinkedIn, and I have an open profile, so we don't even have to be connected. Just send me a message and just say, please, spreadsheet. So I've got a spreadsheet, and it's actually got a list of, this is all you, and I'm sure you can do it on your CRM database, but, this is all of the names of the companies, the individuals, and then, first follow-up, second follow-up, third follow-up. And I've populated the spreadsheet at the top with suggested actions, send a podcast, I'm traveling around and I'm going to be in your city. So things like that. So those regular interactions will really help you. And also always thinking about growing your network. So, we talked earlier about the numbers, and I mentioned 2,500, but, I think a regular habit of once a week, every week, making sure you're connecting, like don't just add them to your CRM
database. The gold.
Connect.
That's the gold. And I think so often it's sporadic, people will start, and I've noticed too, when I've been busy and I've sort of dropped the ball a little bit with LinkedIn, I've kind of got to build it up again until I start to get more engagement again. And that consistency, I think in anything you do in business is so important. And you just said it yourself there, Karen, it's not like do 4 posts one week and then leave it a month. It's, if you're going to do it, commit to the consistency, work out what you can do and keep doing that regularly.
Totally.
It's very easy for us humans to stop when we get a little bit of success there, and then we focus on other things and then forget to do the basics.
I often find too, if there's numbers around it, like send this many or something, like it can get a little bit overwhelming. But if you just put a time frame around your time on LinkedIn, I'm going to spend 10 minutes doing this and 10 minutes doing that. That to me is an easier way to manage it. I don't know if that's the same for everybody, but I find that better than actually thinking of it in terms of I have to reach out to X amount of people.
Yeah, and I like to gamify it. I love my KPIs. I was just one of those recruiters who was like, okay, 100 calls, 15 client visits, like my numbers. So for me, it's about gamifying. So how many people can I contact in 15 minutes? And I literally get my phone out and I set the timer so I can see it. So, and it's right in front of me. So that way I'm not tempted with the whole, I'll send a message and then I'll go and fix my hair and maybe I'll make a cup of tea and then I'll send them.
Yeah, okay.
Hyper-focus, gamifying. How many can I do in 15 minutes? Kind of thing. So,
love that.
yeah, just to sort of keep that energy up. And, you do want to sort of personalize things as much as possible, but I'm also all for imperfect action and just sort of not hopping in LinkedIn and doing one thing and then hopping out and doing something else. But when you time block it and you gamify it, the time just flies so much quicker. And you might go, well, I didn't achieve much in 15 minutes, but 15 minutes, once or twice a week is really going to make a huge difference over a year, massively so.
Yeah, adds up, doesn't it?
At about 23,000 followers at the moment. And I didn't even realize it was that high. And somebody sort of said to me, you've got 23,000 followers. I'm like, gosh, it felt to me like
that shouldn't surprise you.
It's just that chipping away at it, just a regular habit of once a week, every week. Who have I met? Who have I spoken to? Who have I connected with? And time blocking. And time blocking the voice notes that I mentioned earlier. So again, once a week of looking at who you've recently connected and sending those voice notes.
Okay.
Totally.
Yeah, I follow a couple of different people and seems to keep coming back. Just do 5 a day. 5 a day.
Totally.
It's like, have your 5 a day veggies, right, to keep you healthy. Do your 5 a day outreach.
Totally.
To keep your business healthy.
I love that. I just wanted to come back as well to something that you said earlier, and something we haven't touched on, which is about AI and some of the trends on platforms. So we're seeing so much.
You're thinking about my next question coming up.
I just predicted your next question.
Are you jumping ahead?
I love it. No, we're in sync. That's all that's happening. That's all that's happening.
Totally. We're seeing, in terms of the trends with LinkedIn, we're seeing increased AI, and what that's resulting in is increased content. And what that means is lower reach of content, which means those DMs are really important because they get cut through. So, but don't give up on content. It's important to remind people that you're there, and it can be a way of pulling new people to you as well. I would say it's less important than direct outreach. And with that content, I loved that you mentioned stories earlier. So I just want to sort of weave in what we have already spoken about with that next question that I preempted around AI, and just trying to put into your content and into your profile those little personal stories, because AI doesn't know that. And we are really moving towards a time of hyper-personalization. Last decade, everybody was talking about customer experience and customer journey and how are we making people feel during that customer journey. And we were looking at really that mass marketing of creating touch points at certain places. Now we're looking at hyper-personalization, massive rise in small brands and things that feel individual and that are talking directly to us. So don't have a profile that's written in the third person, like Andrew Roger is a technical expert who provides, be human, be authentic, use a casual tone. And I think I'm still seeing a bit of stuffiness on platform, and it just looks like you're a bot.
Obviously teachers run, essays through AI alert tools saying, hey, no, Andrew just obviously went to ChatGPT and put in the topic and spat out this essay. Do you think platforms like LinkedIn will eventually have something like that to decrease the, the reach of those AI-generated stories?
No, I think LinkedIn, the way LinkedIn's going, I think they're doing the opposite. So I think they're really on board with AI, and they're chasing.
So more is more.
More is more. The more we can get you creating content, the easier we can make it. The more you can pat yourself on the back and go, oh my gosh, I've just written, this amazing long post that's, 12,000 characters, words or whatever, and it's crazy long. And, and I did it all with ChatGPT, and I didn't even have to about it, and of course publish. How good am I? I think that's what LinkedIn wants. we are the product. It is a tool, but we are the product, and it wants us all out there creating content, and it wants us all collecting followers, not necessarily connections. Your connections are always far more likely to see your content than your followers are. But it's thinking, can we pick up people from Twitter? Can we do this? And let's just make it easier and easier and have people pat themselves on the back for what they think they're doing. But just that little bit more effort of being really personalized will really differentiate you. And I don't reckon LinkedIn's going to help you to differentiate. Well, it's easy to go, you're not getting the cut through. Why don't you pay for an advert?
Yeah, okay. That does make sense actually from a strategic dollar spend to LinkedIn
Follow the money
perspective. Yeah.
Follow the money. You can see that strategy.
I was just thinking, as we were chatting, I was just thinking, if I keep getting these AI written things, I'm just going to skip past them, right? So I would have thought LinkedIn won't see the engagement with those, so that will downplay those ones. But maybe, that theory around, well, I'm not getting the cut through I used to. Why don't you put an ad up or, bump up, promote this one, or they'll have some other product to highlight your post. Pay $2 to highlight this post more effectively, or whatever it might be. I'm sure.
Okay.
Interesting side question. The question I was going to ask around, obviously there's lots of tools out there using automation, AI to generate content, and then automation to push it through the mechanisms to get it out into LinkedIn. Even there's connection automation, things like that now. So but natively, LinkedIn offers various features like groups, articles, and events that you can be a creator, a real person doing that stuff. How can recruiters leverage those features to maximize their reach to keep themselves top of mind for their target market?
Yeah, they certainly shouldn't be using automation that is not embedded into LinkedIn, because it can result in your profile being shut down. LinkedIn.
Yeah, I've seen that a few times with people in the industry where they've had to rebuild their entire profile because they've been booted off because they are using things. There's one beginning with D, ending in Ipify, that if you use that too much, it busts through the detector and you'll get banned.
Yeah. And you would understand this much better than I do, but LinkedIn has a closed code, so it doesn't want people to integrate with its platform. It wants to own all of the tools. So so there are so many things that you can do on platform. There are groups, which used to be great, but are now often spam fests. So I'm not a big fan of groups at the moment. That could change in the future. LinkedIn still haven't closed down groups.
I think there's a massive opportunity there that they're missing. I don't get it.
Yeah, they just haven't managed to sort of get groups. So groups are not great. Events are massively underutilized on LinkedIn. This is a little bit like asking people to follow the company page. A lot of people think, I'll build it, they will come. Not true. You build a company page, you create a company page newsletter, you need to ask people to follow your company page, and all employees need to do that. Or you need to have an administrator who can sit beside the recruiter, log into their account, and just at the beginning of every month, send 250 invitations to follow the company page. So really important to do that. And it's, again, the same in terms of looking at how you can really grow on LinkedIn is you don't just build it, you need to get out there and get talking to people.
Karen, can you just talk to me? Because I don't think I've ever used events well, and and you said that yourself, a lot of people aren't. So what should I be doing to really leverage the events feature?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the events, when you set up an event page, you need to invite people to attend that event. And you have 1,000 invitations a week that you can send people. And it doesn't get sent as an invitation, as a DM. It gets sent as a notification. So people see it in their notifications as or their invitations as it doesn't come as a DM. So it's very subtle, so subtle that many won't notice it. But also post about it. So you need to all be reposting. This is when you can repost about the event. and just have everybody needs to get on board with sending 1,000 invitations to attend the event. If it's an online webinar that you're running, it kind of doesn't matter if nobody turns up to the event, because the magic is in the amount of invitations that you've sent out and how many people have said, yes, I'm interested. Those people are, because those people are looking for a job if it was a candidate-focused event, or they're potentially interested in that sector if they're a client. So you just want to send out invitations to people and you can only send out invitations to people you are connected to, just to sort of remind people that you're there. Hopefully they'll come to the event. But if they don't, and if it gets into the second network, so you can only send invites to people that you're connected to, but people will see everybody's going to that event. What is that event? You can now search for events. It's not a great feature, but you can search for different events. What are all the events that are to do with recruitment? And you can search for different events and have a look.
That's interesting. Okay.
So, people are doing this and people are starting to see the post. So you'll attract people that you're not connected to into those events. And they're really great funnels. And LinkedIn Lives, there's some amazing stuff being done with Gillian Whitney, and Gillian with a G, Gillian, Gillian Whitney. And she's doing so much around training people on how to use LinkedIn Lives, where you can invite maybe one of your key clients to come and talk on a specific topic. You host that as an event. You invite people to that event. It's a LinkedIn Live. It's video. It goes on every Friday from 12 until 1 or whatever, or 12 until 12:30. You interview people, and then you can cut that content into shorter videos, which can then be streamed from your company page and your individual page. You don't even have to think about content. So there's so much that people can do around events that I think they're just not doing.
Can you download that and have it yourself, that content? Will they let you download the video?
Yes.
Or that
They don't let you download the video, so you can't download the video and then stream it, upload it to YouTube. You have to do that through StreamYard. You probably do it through Riverside, but you can do it through StreamYard and set all of that up.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
It's the app that you use, which LinkedIn have permitted.
That's super interesting. And so within that theme then, Karen, what do you think's next for, so obviously AI is a big component. What else do you think's on the drawing board for LinkedIn?
I think they're going to, I think it's just more about money. They're just chasing money. So it's always been chasing money, interestingly. So, of course, they've always been interested in making money, and that's always been their thing. But they really wanted to get, for a long time, lots of people on the platform. I think now they're not, in the last couple of years, they're not making the money. And I know, because this is being shown in the annual reports, they're not making the money that they thought they were going to make. So while they are the biggest social media platform in the world, with 1 billion members, they pretty much reached saturation points. So now they're thinking, how can we make more money? So I think we're going to see a bigger push around advertising and people having to pay for advertising. We're also going to see bigger gaps between Sales Navigator, Recruiter Lite, Premium and Free. So I think we're going to see just bigger gaps between that. I think they're going to become more expensive, and they'll push more features to those paid services. So
turn the free ones into paid features. So
everybody is thinking, I can just get away with using LinkedIn Free, and I can do Boolean search through Google, and that will give me access to all these LinkedIn profiles. You'll now notice that when you do that, you can't see people's headlines. So LinkedIn are doing things like that.
Exposing it.
Yeah. So they're just trying to get as much money as they can.
They seem to be quite slow to shut down that whole X-ray search thing, but I know they're certainly onto it now. But there was a good run there for a while where it worked really well.
It's a good run for about 10 years, wasn't it? It was amazing. Yeah. I know. And they're really cutting down on it now. And the way they've cut down on it is just by, they've just changed it so that you can't see people's headlines when you Google their name, which is just, it is what it is.
Interesting. So, it's interesting. And I guess no surprises there, right?
Yeah.
It was always going to happen, I think, wasn't it? Yeah.
But they need to, I don't know, like we noticed because we've advertised a lot on LinkedIn over the 7 years, and I definitely know that the conversion rates have dropped over that time. And I don't think that's just us. We were pretty on top of what we were doing. Sort of, they have to make these things have to work, because even though they are a business platform, and you could argue that Facebook and all these others aren't, there's plenty of people advertising businesses on Facebook and doing things on there. So it still needs to stay competitive.
I don't think it does. I disagree. Yeah, I don't think it needs to stay competitive, because it is now like Facebook have destroyed themselves by having too many adverts, and I don't think LinkedIn.
They still work. I know they're dropping, but they do still work.
So, and it's just such a different platform. It's, there are so many. We have 1 billion members on LinkedIn. I don't know what Facebook is. I should go and find out. But, I certainly know there's a lot of my clients who do not have a Facebook platform. I've only just recently, as of October last year, started. I don't have a presence, company presence on LinkedIn, on Facebook at all, but I've just started becoming part of a Facebook group, and I know you've got one there. So I'm sort of trying to figure out how to do stuff on Facebook, but it's not a platform I use. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. LinkedIn have got the market there, so I think they're going to make it more and more expensive. And what that means is a number of things. One, you need to get in now, because while you may be hearing in this conversation that the good times have gone, actually it's just going to get more and more competitive as more and more people create content. So get on now, because it is getting harder, but also double down on that personalization. Don't just rely on followers. Go out there, get invitations to connect, leave voice notes. A voice, yes, it can be mimicked by a robot, but, really impressing a button on your mobile and,
I don't think we're at that point where people are kind of going yet, is this a robot or is this Karen Tisdale?
Totally.
I guess it's coming, but I don't think we're there yet.
Totally not. And how that's going to integrate? No, totally not. So, send voice notes, follow up with I've seen this podcast and at 23 minutes in, so be really superhuman. So it's less of that spray and pray, but more in just sort of think, who are my A-list clients, my B-list clients, my C-list clients, and what's my marketing strategy for each of these on LinkedIn, and being really conscious about that, as opposed to just sort of going, I'll do a little bit of this sporadically. Sporadic is not good. You really want to be very decisive around it.
One thing I think people forget too is we all get so excited and get those dopamine hits when you get likes and comments and shares, all that kind of thing. But I think the real opportunity, and I've really noticed this, is the more engaged I get in other people's content, that kind of trumps it. Like as soon as I start commenting and telling people that I'm, going to like and share their stuff, and I do, it makes a huge difference to engagement. And I think sometimes we get in our little sort of world thinking, I'll write this post and I'm going to really I'm going to super overthink it and eventually post it. But maybe if you took sort of a third of the time to do that and spend the other 2/3 going to other people's content, comment with, valuable comments and sharing and looking for thought leaders in your space and following those and commenting, I think there's a missed opportunity there, Karen. Do you see that?
Well, there's a 9 and 1, of course, but that's been around for a few years now. So 9 and 1. So you need to comment on 9 other posts to every one of your own. If you do not...
Oh, there we go. I hadn't heard that. Okay.
Belinda.
I love that.
Put that in writing.
Do you think I should have heard that? I kind of intuitively, I guess.
Sort of it.
Yeah. It's good to be reminded, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
9 and 1. It's really interesting because you know what? I've said that quite a few times, and it's interesting. And if it hasn't landed for you two, I bet there's a lot of people out there going, 9 and 1? What's she going on about? So,
Okay, I'm going to post about that today.
you need to comment on 9 other individual posts, not posts from company pages, or not posts from like massive famous people that are never going to notice you. And I don't mean to be rude, but like if you're like, oh, I commented on Richard Branson's post, that counts. It does not. So click on 9 other posts to every one of your own. And if you don't do that, you will not see any visibility. It could be part algorithm because the algorithm is designed by human behavioral scientists, so they know that givers get. But it could just be the plain old law of reciprocity. Belinda always comments on my posts.
Bit of karma.
So when I see her post, even if I'm in the middle of a client meeting and I'm with a client and I'm talking about LinkedIn or we've got LinkedIn open, I've got my hand on the mouse and I just can't help myself. My hand just moves across and just likes your post. It just happens because you always like my content, so it's that human thing. So, yeah, really important.
And is liking, I know the whole magic is in commenting in people, but is liking still, because I don't always have time to comment on everybody's post, but I try to support people. And if I see people I know, I'll try and read it and make sure it's something that I gel with. And if I don't have time to comment, I'll just go like. Is that, should we be doing that?
I certainly don't make time to read all of the content, so I love that you do. Belinda, whenever I see either of your posts in my feed, and I'm rushing to pick up the kids, or I'm just about to step into a meeting, I don't read it. It's like it. But if I've got time, if I can, I comment on it because I know you both. And for me, it's about that imperfect action. I know you're not going to put out anything that's, racist or horrible stuff. I know you're not going to do it. So I just, in good faith, I just like it. And I do the same for all of my ALS prospects. I just trust that they'll put it.
Yeah. Well, for people I know, you're right. If I didn't know them, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't know what they're talking about, and I wouldn't. True, I wouldn't want to be liking something that I really wouldn't like.
Yeah, totally.
But I think it's a nice way to support people. It's quick and it's easy.
The way I think of it is in your question around likes and comments. So I think of it as you've passed somebody on the street and a comment is, I'm going one way in the street and Andrew Rogers going the other way, and I call out, and Andrew says, can you? Yeah, awesome. So that's a comment. Belinda, you're walking down the street, I'm walking the other way. We think we've recognized each other, but it's been a while since we've seen each other on video. And so we kind of do a little smile as we're walking past. It's like, I think that's Belinda, so I'll sort of smile, but I won't wave just in case it's not her and she thinks I'm a weirdo. That's what a like is. So a like is that sort of a, hi, I think I know you, slight smile, A comment is a, I see you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, I think anything else, any sort of part that's fantastic, Karen. And what I love about, we've caught up quite a few times, and I just love the practical element to what you do. It's always so insightful, so practical, and, comes with a lot of, you just immerse yourself in the whole platform. You know what it's all about. So any kind of parting words, anything else that you'd like to add to what we've spoken about today that you think would be, just to wrap up, I guess.
You're looking, Andrew. I think I've covered everything. Do you think?
I think you have.
Hours about LinkedIn, but I think we've covered a lot of takeaways, haven't we? I hope. Hyper-personalization.
A massive amount. And, I've got a long list of to-do items for our brand from this session. So thank you. Good reminder stuff. I know a lot of that stuff is stuff you've been preaching for many moons. So it's always good to get that recap, revise, and a bit of a kick up the bum as well. So thank you very much, Karen, for the time today. And everybody connect with Karen if you're not already connected. She's highly connected already, so you possibly are, but definitely connect. Karen, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you if they want some help with their not-so-great profile right now?
Absolutely. Or if you want that template. So I've got a spreadsheet. It's a really ugly spreadsheet because I don't know how to create spreadsheets. But anyway, so I've got a networking spreadsheet.
Function over form, right?
Sorry.
Function over
Totally
form.
function over form. It is totally function over form. But it's got suggested actions. So, if anybody wants that, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Karen Tisdell, 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 as in Dell Computers. And I've also got a website as well, but it's a bit of a ghost page, I've got to say. Got to get that into shape.
My favourite takeaway from today is definitely that 9 to 1. So comment on 9 other people's and one comment for you. I love it. That's just...
Karen rolls the eyes.
I know. She's going, I told you that, BK. I'm like, did you? Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry.
I'm sure she told me before.
Yeah, but no, I love that. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, my lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. An absolute pleasure as always. And thanks, Rogie. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks lots.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode of the Tech Savvy Recruiter. If you like to stay up to date with the latest recruitment trends and insights, make sure that you remember to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And also, if you'd like to speak to Andrew about turning your tech stack into your secret weapon, or myself around creating an agency that delivers you more money, more meaning, and more freedom, we'd absolutely love to chat. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for your support. We look forward to seeing you next time.